Everyone. My name is Jameelah Calhoun. I currently serve as the head of U.S. product marketing at Audible, and I'm so pleased to be speaking with you all here today as part of the Winter Olympics How to Win at Product Marketing event. The topic I am going to be speaking with you all today about is around the idea of how to truly understand what are hypotheses around a particular problem, how to leverage different methodologies to ultimately answer that question, and use all of those processes to inform product development efforts as a product marketer. But I always love to take a step back and first think through exactly the journey that I've taken to becoming a product marketer. That has really been a winding road, as I've put here in the graphic. I started my career in finance, and that really set a foundation of being able to think through different problems analytically, and how to really understand the how a business ultimately drives their P&L. I then spent a stint in strategy consulting, and this is a really central way of how I came to understand problem solving and a structured approach to gaining answers to big questions that different businesses have. So actually quite a bit of the things that I'll be sharing today were really kind of set up through my formative experiences in consulting. I then was a general manager, kind of leading a team responsible for creating a business where we offered consulting services to other companies. And so that was a great experience of wearing the business development hat, actually pitching to clients in that B2B sense. And ultimately, I think that's what has helped me launch into product marketing. That empathy for understanding what it takes to be on the front lines, talking to clients, and really have to sell in a new concept and new offering to them. So as you can see, all of those formative experiences, whether it's the analytics from finance, the problem solving approach from consulting, and ultimately that need to drive ultimate bottom line results and business development results has really been part of building what I see as my interdisciplinary toolkit for product marketing. And so my last few roles have been in product marketing, whether on the B2B side, B2C side, and also some product strategy roles as well. And I think that as I continue to be incredibly passionate about this field, it's so important for me to continue to elevate the fact that many different backgrounds can find their way to product marketing and find fulfilling careers in it. So, as I mentioned, what we'll be discussing today is all about root cause-based problem solving. And this really came through in my experience working in consulting, where this is definitely one of the key approaches that's used to really uncover answers to different large strategic questions. And ultimately, that's what product marketers are doing, finding answers to strategic questions that businesses and product managers have. So for an agenda today, we will review what is this approach, root cause-based problem solving, why does it matter, and ultimately how does it apply to your careers as product marketers. So what is a product marketer's role in product development? And I'll move this over here just so that you guys can make sure that you can read everything that's on the screen. So product development, of course, is the process through which you continue to build higher and higher confidence and validation behind a hypothesis of a new offering or service that you want to bring to market. So naturally, as you guys all know, product marketers are working quite closely with product managers, technical teams to help develop MVPs, prototypes, pilots, and ultimately a go-to-market that are really oriented towards ensuring that this new value proposition achieves commercial success in front of customers. So the key questions you're trying to answer is who wants it, Why do they want it? What does it need to have as the ingredients into that offering in order for it to win in the market? And how can it be messaged and positioned? So these questions, you guys deal with them probably day in and day out, but it's really important to always come back to these, especially as we start getting into, well, how do we start to answer these questions in a more systematic and sequenced way that enables the teams to work efficiently together. All right, so how does problem solving processes typically go? I've seen this happen in many, many different teams. One, the word hypothesis is used for just about everything. But there are multiple different types of hypotheses happening at the same time. And so what this gives an example of is how teams can start to talk through their ideation processes in a way that can ultimately lead to some potential misaligned outcomes. So customer-obsessed teams, as we all are on and work for, typically start the ideation process with a new customer insider observation in mind. Examples of this might be that a bookstore observes that its repeat customer rate starts to decline. A subscription service finds that a growing portion of their clientele is not using their product or services, month to month. So there's a disengaged population. At this stage, what a lot of teams will do is immediately move into brainstorming and testing solutions. So as you could imagine, a bookstore owner is saying, oh, my repeat customers aren't coming back. Let me test into a rewards program and maybe some pricing discounts that's really going to entice them to come back to the store and actually start to bring that repeat customer rate back up. The subscription team may look at this information, do a brainstorm, and think, oh, well, we've just got to find ways to re-engage this base of customers as soon as possible. So let's unlock some customer marketing campaigns via email, some push notifications, and other tools that are in our toolkit for that. The challenge may be that sometimes you end up solving the wrong problem, or the fact that there may not necessarily be the problem that you think there is. So here's an example of what the reality might have actually been. So in the case of the bookstore that has lost some repeat customers, we could have a situation where repeat customers at the store have historically skewed towards the romance genre buyers. And recently the store reduced SKUs of the romance category. So going ahead and putting rewards programs out there, while always, a great tool for loyalty and engagement with customers, it may not actually have been solving the root cause of the particular challenge that this bookstore was facing in this particular period, which was that some of their inventory in a particular high volume category had started to become compressed. So here it's actually would have been to kind of ensure that they were solving for the right problem. The question is truly, how do we re-engage romance, high volume purchasers in our store? And a whole other set of solutions may have come out of a brainstorm around that question versus starting with driving hypotheses around the former question of just how do we drive more repeat customers. The second example here about the reality, and I've seen this happen in businesses I've been at, where many of the dormant subscribers were actually satisfied with their experience because they were primarily solving for having the option value if they ever did need that product that they were subscribed to. They knew it would be there, for them to engage with. Ultimately, in this case, emails and other strategies actually kind of one, reminded them that this thing was, that their membership was kind of floating out there. They got annoyed by the frequency of the communications and ultimately canceled. And it was a situation where a new problem was created coming off of the original insight that was driven. So in this case, a different set of challenges might have been one around the messaging, around continuing to talk to the customer about, continue to enjoy this option that you have. We're here for you when you're ready. It's a very different way of talking to the person than have you seen all the other great stuff that you're missing out on. In terms of impact then, what does this mean for the business when this happens? As you can imagine, especially in the case of giving discounts, that can create, different price dynamics with your competitors in the market. It, in the short term, decreases revenue. The test likely fail to deliver the expected results. And ultimately what happens is usually the teams will have to double back in order to develop new hypotheses on what actually drove the initial behavior that they observed, since the test ultimately didn't bear out the solution that they were working towards. So how about we take a different tact then and really ensure that the observed insights are used to feed into a process that's going to unlock the true root cause learnings that are critical. The interesting thing of this is at every stage you will be developing hypotheses. So just to say what are your hypotheses actually doesn't tell you much. What are your hypotheses about what is the problem? What are your hypotheses about why this problem is happening? And what are your hypotheses on what we should do about it? Are all three different types of hypothesis analysis and three different ways of creating alignment with your organization on what to do. So in this process of root cause based problem solving, the main thing we are inserting is this why in the middle. So you're going to have to understand what is the inside of behavior that is being observed, but take that step and that layer of then trying to understand what is motivating that behavior and why you believe customers or other players in your particular industry are behaving in the way that you're seeing. Lastly, in terms of the so what do we do about it? This is where you say, given the motivations that have been uncovered through the why part of that analysis, what are some hypothesized solutions that could be leveraged to really change the shape and understanding of these customers' behavior? So why does this matter? This process allows for more efficient and accurate hypothesis testing. It minimizes the potential risk of commercial failure after launch, ensuring that every single time you're actually focusing on testing things that are of higher and higher confidence and fidelity. The second piece is it minimizes biases in developing solutions. Again, as we talked about in the bookstore example, the kind of bias was, if we're not getting enough customers to buy again, let's do discounts. Let's put a rewards program. So this ensures that you maintain an open aperture around what the potential solutions and root causes could be, that really keeps the customer at the center of any learning agenda that you're going to create. And lastly, this really helps clarify sequencing and road mapping for your testing and learn program. Oftentimes, as you guys know, product marketing teams and our partner teams are incredibly under-resourced or tightly resourced. And so it's really important to ensure that the learnings that you're putting out there, that you're able to create leverage against any test that you're doing by building upon prior learnings, doing them in the right sequence so that each incremental test really helps you leapfrog your initial hypothesis. So how do you go about making this real? You have to understand the problem. first and foremost. And that's what is really critical to also understand here. Oftentimes, the first kind of insight is kind of seen, and people will immediately say, wow, subscribers aren't engaging as much as they used to. We've got to spin up a task force. Instead here, I think, one, it's really important to ensure that you're going a little bit, peeling the onion back a little bit deeper. The bookstore, for example, could have initially just looked at their own data, disaggregated the views, and saw that the romance category was the most impacted by this emerging behavior. So this helps to ensure clarity, ensure that you're solving the right problem that's truly been observed. This, in terms of methodologies, I think it's important to leverage in-depth customer analytics here, external benchmarking, etc. In terms of the why, this is where you diagnose what the drivers are. You uncover the root cause, needs, motivations, and pain points that allows you to develop customer personas based on what you're kind of seeing now drives the behavior. At this stage, you're now trying to develop hypotheses on the solutions. So each step here, you're getting hypothesis of what's the next step. So some of the methodologies here, I love the 5 whys exercise. I think that really helps you get all the way down to the root cause. So brainstorms around of that sort will be incredibly valuable. Here's where market and UX research like really come out to shine here, to really support the effort on diagnosing the why. And also sometimes some very lighter touch A/B testing could help you see and quickly understand like what may be driving some of these behaviors. The last piece then, which is of course where we want to get to, and often where the bias for action comes in, we have to identify the solution. So here's where you can craft your learning agenda that now is really meant to validate that product market fit of the potential hypothesized solutions that your team is working against. So again, brainstorming those hypotheses, driving to more prototyping and MVP and pilot, kind of as the classic product development cycle unfurls. And here's where also, as you're developing those different solutions, you would go through UX research and UX design work as well. The great part about this is that this process really flexes to the level of depth and rigor that teams want to put into each step. So if you have a project where there's a ton of urgency, there are lighter touch ways to quickly ensure you've got the right problem by doing those just deep dives into your analytics, getting the pivot tables out and really ensuring that you're not just looking at averages, but starting to disaggregate that. Very quickly, you can dig into existing research that's already been done, external research that helps you uncover what's happening, surveys, which are lighter touch forms of research that can be executed quickly, chatting up with a couple customers, just asking them more interesting and targeted questions. That can all be done in short order for your diagnosis. And then in terms of the identification of the problem, here's where you can put, for something that is a lower risk, a quick prototype in market, a quick MVP that's really something of that's scrappy for the organization to do. On the other end, of course, if this is truly a whole new white space that you are entering as a business, that's likely going to have higher risk, higher reward, of course, associated with it. But in those cases, you may stretch the length of each of these steps so that you can go even deeper into the analysis, do even more research and testing, even more prototyping and piloting before you actually enter the white space. So this is really just a framework for doing this work rather than, a kind of prescriptive approach that takes a long time. So here's the wrap up. And I hope this was really helpful to some kind of product marketers who are starting to dive into a bit more of working through new product development. Root cause based problem solving really focuses on answering the why behind observed customer problems before solutioning. This approach saves time and protects limited resources by increasing confidence that you're solving the right problem for customers. And you have different hypotheses at different points in time, and the learning methods vary across these different types of hypotheses, where you go from heavy analytics into more research, into more kind of in-market prototyping and testing. And so I think that this is a great kind of way for new product marketers to kind of organize their approaches to new product development. So I hope this was valuable, and thank you again for all of your time. I really appreciate it and hope you will connect with me on LinkedIn, and welcome your feedback.